Hey friends, today I'm creating some mini 4x4 Halloween cards. So I've already done a lot of prep off of camera just because I wanted to do some stitching, and I did some paper tearing and did some stitching, some wonky stitching, and then on two of them I stitched in a couple of places on the inside, and then on the other ones I just stitched on the outside and then did some distressing. So I have a lot of the items kind of already put together, did a lot of the prep off camera. So what I have is my bases. I have cut aparts from the DCWV Halloween Party Collection. I've got some random trims and creepy cloth, and then I have my four 4x4 card bases, and the card bases are 4 by 8, and then I just folded them in half, and that creates your 4x4 base. And then I'll need to create envelopes for this as well. So aside from this, I have my AdTech and my glue gun on and next to me. And I pulled one of the stickers from the sticker pack to cover up this sentiment here, which said love you, and I just covered it up with the happy Halloween because I didn't want it to say love you. And then I may pull a few things from my stash. So let's get to creating these cards. These are super simple, other than taking the time to kind of tear and build the card bases. So I think what I'm going to do first is just use my AdTech and attach the bases down, and then we will build up from there. And these bases measure 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, so that there is a border around it. Alright, so I'm going to create these really simple. I'm going to use some of this creepy cloth on 2 of them, and then some of this ribbon for the other 2. And this little piece is kind of wonky, so I'm just going to add this in to the middle. I want it to show a little bit on the sides, maybe not as much in the middle. And then I'm going to do the same technique as I did with my memory decks, and I'm just going to add a little glue in a couple places to hold this down. Alright, and then let's grab my foam tape. I think I'm going to pop up this cut apart. Alright, and then let's pop this in the center. Roughly in the center. It's not perfect. And let's trim a little of this extra that's hanging off here. And our first card is done. Really simple. Using the cut aparts is a great way to make simple cards. All right, let's do orange on this one next. And this piece is a little big. So let's add this down, and I think if I pop this up, it's going to help hold that down. So let's go ahead, take a minute to pop this one up as well. All right, and then I added some extra adhesive on the back, and let's go ahead and add this down. And I think I'm going to try to tuck that little bit in behind there. All right, so cute. So 2 down, and then let's use this fun decorative ribbon, and I just added a little bit of my ad tech. I'm going to center that down. And then since we pop these up, I'm going to go ahead and pop these up as well. Let's do the witch on this one. And for this witch card, I cut it down a little bit because it was bigger. So that way it could fit on my card base. So let's add this down, and that was not very straight. Let's see if I can straighten it up a little bit. And then let's repeat with this last one. Okay, sorry, I got interrupted, and all I did was lay this one last cut apart down, and we have our 4 cards created. Then you could go back in with some puffy stickers or some gems or what have you, and spruce these up as well if you wanted to do that. I like to add some gems, but I'm kind of leaning towards leaving these a little plain and just leaving them like that, and kind of having the trim and the cut aparts and all the stitching kind of be the star of the show for these cards. But what I need to do next is take some white paper, and I'm going to line the inside to have a place to write. So I'm going to do that next, and then I'm going to create some envelopes to go with these, and I will come back on and show you the cards and envelopes together. So stay tuned. Okay, so I thought I would show you guys how I have been creating my envelopes. I have an envelope punch board, but I've actually been creating a policy. So I've actually been creating like a policy style envelope, and those have been my favorite ones to create, and they're super easy, super quick, and I don't need my envelope punch board. So here are 2 of the envelopes I created, and my card is in here, and these are double-sided papers from the Halloween party, and so this is my last sheet of paper in this paper pad. So I've used up a whole paper pad, but what you'll need to make your 2 envelopes for these 2 cards is a piece of 12 by 12 paper. So because this has this little top on it, I'm going to go ahead and trim this to 12 by 12. And trim that little top part off. And then we're just going to trim the paper in half at 6. So then you have 2 pieces of paper that measures 6 by 12. And this is just how I do it. I don't want to do a whole lot of measuring or you know, figuring out the perfect envelope for the card. I want it to be quick and easy. So after I have my 2 pieces of paper, or you could do this the first step before you cut your paper, but I like to do it each. So once you have your paper cut, you're going to use your scoreboard, your ruler, your paper trimmer, whatever you have to score. And then you're going to score at 8 3/4. So 3 3/4 and 8 3/4. And then after you've scored those, you can score any size you really want at the top and the bottom, as long as you have enough room for your card in the middle. You also need to be mindful of what's going to be your top and what's going to be your bottom. So this side does not matter, but this side does. So this would have to be the top here. So I'm going to put that in my scoreboard first. And we're going to score that keeping in consideration my card here. I'm going to go ahead and score that at 1 inch. And then I'm going to score this bottom one at 5 1/2. Or you could potentially score it at 5 1/4, but I like to give a little bit more wiggle room for my card. So I'm going to do 5 1/2, and that's going to give me that 1/2 inch on the bottom. So this piece, it doesn't matter because I'm going to use, this is the outside, but then I want to be mindful that this is going to be the inside. So again, we're going to score at 1 inch. And 5 1/2. And you can put your scoreboard away. And now we're just going to fold on all your score lines and burnish. And to put this together on our score lines here, we're going to cut these here apart. We're going to take them completely off our envelope. So just take your scissors, and I cut at a slight angle here and here, and then I cut a slight angle off to the side here. All right, I will try to do one with you. I have a hard time using the scissors. So as you can see, I cut at an angle. So let's cut this one. And I'm going to turn it around to make it easier. So we're going to cut at an angle. Come to our score line. And then I just move my paper. And then I cut down. And then our envelope is going to look like this. So go ahead and repeat that process with your other envelope. Okay, so now we need to put our envelope together. And I would suggest maybe like double-sided tape or something for this. But for this one, we're just going to use a little Adtech and a little hot glue. So I put a little glue on the edge here and a little glue on the edge here. And then I'm just going to run an extra bead of hot glue. But like I said, I would definitely use double-sided tape for this. And then just burnish this down. And then we're going to glue the bottom of our envelope here. You could also use wet glue for this. Especially if you're sending this in the mail, I would definitely use some wet glue. And then we have our envelope. And I made these slightly different because I have this a little bit larger than this one. So if you wanted to do this at like 3/4 and this at 3/4, they could be even. But that's completely up to you. So we've got that one. Let's repeat with our other one. All right, so now we have 4 cards and 4 envelopes, and I also added some white paper in the inside, and I think I'm going to go back through and maybe add a sticker or 2 like in the corner of this just to decorate the inside of the card. But thank you so much, guys, for stopping by and creating these 4x4 cards with the DCWV Halloween Party. All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.